Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is John Bliss, a writer, thinker, entrepreneur, and lifelong student of some of life's biggest questions. John describes himself as a skeptic and an individualist, someone who disrupts easy answers and challenges assumptions that many of us accept without question. With a background in history, engineering, business, art, and philosophy, John spent over 13 years writing his book, The False Paradigm of Today and the Timeless Truth of Tomorrow, exploring questions about meaning, identity, society, and what it means to live a good life. John, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you.
All right. So, John, can you take us back to your childhood, basically? So, what kind of kid were you, and what first sparked your curiosity about life and ideas, basically?
Oh, that's an interesting start. Okay. Well,
Mm.
I was a son of a basketball coach, a
Mm.
college basketball coach, and what that meant was we won. Winning and losing was really, really important. It was everything when you're just a child and you see your father, working so hard with his team and all that to win these basketball games and sometimes they'd lose by 1 point, and they worked so hard, put so much into it, and they'd lose. Or sometimes they'd win. But I remember the losses more because it's easier to remember your losses. And I think from that, I guess from that, I learned that life's a game, or at least that's how I chose to approach life. I see it as a game. Um, as a child, I was a strange kid. That's all I could really say. I was just different. I never could. Um, I did my own thing, and I remember my mother often telling me, why can't you just be like the other children? Um, and I didn't know how. I just didn't know how to do it. That's all I can really tell you about my childhood.
All right. Wow. So yes, thank for, telling us that actually. So, looking back, right, what belief did you hold in your 20s that you later had to change your mind about?
Mm. Oh, yeah, that's pretty easy. One thing I see, I don't know if this is a problem in Africa, but certainly in the United States, young people, um, most young people, I think it is, especially because of the things they heard from their parents, they believe that they're no good. They believe that they can never
Mm.
accomplish anything. They're stupid, um, inconsequential. At least that's what I believed about myself, and ultimately not worthy of being loved. And when I was young, I certainly believed all of those things about myself, that I was an absolute loser, um, who would never, ever have money, never be successful, never be loved. Yeah. And I guess, over the year, that's what I believed in my early 20s. And over the years, I realized that was all crap. And I think since I mentioned this, I mean, first off, before I go further, is this something people in Africa, when they're young, feel
Mm.
that too? Is this common to
Yeah,
humanity in general? Okay.
I think
All right.
it's a humanity thing actually.
So one thing I learned, or not learned, but I read a book. It's called Feeling Good. I don't remember
Mm.
the author. It was by a cognitive therapist, and he had this technique which I used, which really was one of my first breakthroughs, and that was you make a list of all the bad things you hear yourself say about yourself. So to me,
Mm.
I would write, I am stupid. I will never be successful. I'm
Mm.
inconsequential. I'm ugly. No one will ever love me. Those might be the five things I could think of at the moment. And you make this list, and then next to each of those statements you write, well, is that really true? Number one, am I stupid? I remember, well,
Mm.
I was really good in school And I don't think people good in school are stupid. So, no, I'm not stupid. Will I ever be loved? Well, no. I did have girlfriends and they loved me. So I guess that's not true. And so I went through all of these different things I said about myself and I reasoned, are they really true? And none of them were. And then what you're supposed to do the next step is when you hear that, so you make a mistake, you drop something in front of everyone and they all laugh at you or something. And you would say, "Oh, I'm so stupid." And that's the voice that may come in your mind and you just have to then say, "No, I'm not stupid. Remember, I did really good in school." And if you do that just that third step, every time you hear one of those negative voices, you counter it with what you wrote down, those voices go away forever. And that was the first big step I took to make me, I lost all of that. I totally lost all of that.
Mm. Wow. When you were talking, I was trying to, think what are some of like the limiting beliefs that I personally had to let go of.
Mm,
One of them I could remember is that I was told, right, ever since I was young, that in my family we cannot be successful entrepreneurs. Right? We could
right.
do any other thing. I mean, and we could work a 9 to 5. We could do any other thing apart from owning a business. And it was something I actually held on to, right? Till I got to a point and I was like, why? I actually had to ask myself, like, why do you believe this? And have you tried it out and see if it was going to work or not? So I had to start a business and it was successful. So then I figured that why I was told this is because my mom, she started a business and it didn't go well. So she just assumed, well, we were not meant to have a business in this family. And she kept on
Hmm.
saying it until I started to believe it.
Yes.
So later on, I had to, challenge that idea. I do not think this is real, right? So it's left for us as humans to, think, like you said, write it down and ask yourself, is this true? Is this true? Basically. So wow, thank you, John, for that
No,
exciting one, I would say.
no, it's
Oh,
it's so true. It's like we're born with these like brand new computers as brains, and then we
mm,
install all this software. And what is the software? It's the social conditioning. It's what our families
mm,
told us and our teachers and everything else. And they told us all these things. And a lot of them aren't really true and not useful either. And they hold us back. And
mm,
it's really important to question all of them and decide for yourself, what do I want to be? What do I want to be? And really
mm,
focus on that. And that's just what you did. Absolutely.
right. Wow. Okay. So yes, thank you, John. Now I want us to, touch on exploring life and meaning, basically. So, you eventually built and sold a business. So what did entrepreneurship teach you
Mhm.
about people and success?
Ooh, wow. There's so much there. Okay. Well, one thing is, I don't think that being an entrepreneur is for everyone. I do not.
Mm,
Most people are scared. In fact, okay,
mm,
this kind of goes back to our earlier conversation or topic, and that is, I still feel like you could walk in any room of 100
mm,
people, and probably 95 of them are scared or have very little self confidence. That's just the way it
mm,
is. And once you are
right.
fearless and have self confidence, you own the room. And
No,
not only you own the room, you own life. You're like a
mm,
wolf among sheep. And that's just
mm,
the way it is. It's all about developing your self confidence and becoming fearless. Um, uh, okay, so when I mentioned back to business, I don't think most people can be an entrepreneur. I know a lot of people say that most can. I don't believe that. And the reason I don't is because most people are full of fear. And
mm,
actually during my entire I was a business owner for about 25 years, and I have to say I was really scared maybe
mm,
15 or 20 of those years. So maybe I guess you can have fear and do it, but you will be tormented. I saw business as controlled, or better word, managed suffering, because there
mm,
was always, if you have payroll and you have to pay people like I did, you you have to pay them whether you have money or not. At least in the United States, it's against the law not to pay your employees. What if I have no money? What am I going to do? Well, you have to pay them or you're breaking the law. And and so what happens is we have to take out a loan. And what happens? You can't pay the loan and business still goes bad. Well, you can lose everything you own, everything. And that fear always hung over my head. And I think that most people, this is what it is. Most people are addicted to comfort. And if you're willing to move outside of that and let comfort go and be adventurous and fearless, not fearless, act fearless, you may have fear inside. Be courageous, I guess is the better word. Then you can really succeed. But most of us want comfort. And that is the real problem. And, I just read a book, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name of it, but it described how people, what holds people back is their love of comfort. We get stuck in these comfort bubbles. In fact, it often happens to entrepreneurs as well, including myself. After a while, you start out hungry and you work hard, and let's say you're fearless, you try things, you fail, you try, you fail, you try, you succeed. Things like that happen. And then at some point, you get to a level of comfort where money's coming in. It always comes in. I always make it. In fact, I have enough money. Maybe I don't need to continue working hard. And I don't need to even try hard things and possibly risk losing it all. Why? I'm comfortable. And so a lot of business people stop being hungry and stop growing. I was one of those, by the way. But yeah, comfort is the thing that holds us back from really moving forward. This need of comfort and fear of discomfort. Yeah, I guess so. One
Yeah.
other thing I guess I should say about business, there's so many things to say. I actually gave a webinar a few times and a talk on business and starting a business. One is your business is going to do really well sometimes and then do really bad. There's this endless progression of it gets good and then it gets bad and then it gets good and then it gets bad and it gets good and it gets bad. And that's how it is when things are good. Just remember they will get bad again. And when they're bad, you need to remember they will get good again. It's just a cycle, and you have to be able to endure that.
Wow. Like there's this saying that it says these two shall pass, right? So
I say that. I say that to myself. Yes,
right. These
absolutely.
two shall pass. And people think like when they say these two shall pass, they always just apply it to negative things. Like when something
That's
negative is happen, they'll be like, these two shall pass. But we need to understand that it's both positive and negative, right?
that's right.
Good
That's
things,
absolutely right.
right?
That's
Good
right.
things could be happening and then it will pass. And then something bad, good, just know that whatever is happening is short term, right? You just have to build your mind, prepare for the future, basically. I mean, things might be rosy now, doesn't mean it will be rosy later. So you could just prepare for later. And then when it becomes not rosy, you won't be too surprised because you're already well prepared for it. So whatever situation you're in, just know that this too shall pass, basically.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Whew. So, right, John, I want us to talk on, what you're doing today, basically. So,
Okay.
first of all, what message are you trying to, communicate through the false paradigms of
Uh,
today and also the timeless truth of tomorrow?
okay. So the book is, I would say, of two parts. It's 13 essays, and the first half of the book pretty much questions a lot of the things we take for granted, that a
Mm.
lot of that fake conditioning or false software that we put in our brand new computers that are our minds. It questions them, and things like it might question. So I'll just really be real brief about it. One, that logic is the right way to go. Is it always good to be logical? Absolutely. Actually, it is not. If you're totally logical, then you would treat people like things, and the only thing is your goal. And if someone's in your way, well, I mean, what's logical? If no one's going to notice or catch you, then maybe you should just murder them. That's logical if you're not going to be caught. And that is really not the way to proceed in life. It is not. there's another way of thinking, which is that all life is sacred. I mean, that really should be where our thinking starts from. But but logic brought us, Hitler's final solution. It brought us eugenics. It brought us slavery. It's logical, but it isn't right. So there's that. Other things I question, for example, science. Science it can measure things that we could, or science deals with things that we can perceive through our senses and our instruments, but everything else science has, for the most part, just said doesn't exist. But that would mean, well, what is love? Well, it's a chemical reaction. Is that really what love is? It's a chemical reaction, yeah. And there's a whole world out there that science just, yeah, as I said, cannot perceive. It does not understand. It cannot grasp, and it just says it doesn't exist, and it's not really true. Religions, religions were originated by people who really, I believe, in most cases, really communicated with God. But you can't communicate what you experienced. You can't put it into words. It cheapens it and makes it sound stupid. And the people around them who started the religions, they're organizers. They're not holy people. They're not prophets. They're not gods or avatars. They're organizers. And they set up these systems. This is the doctrine that you have to believe. These are the sacraments. This is a pope. This is a bishop, whatever they come up with. Christ never talked about popes, and the seven sacraments. He didn't do that. He didn't talk about purgatory and limbo, and other people came up with that stuff. And so, but there's a lot of, so that's the first half of the book, is it just is questioning a lot of the ideas that we have taken for granted. And based on these, I guess you can call them assumptions. And based on these assumptions, we come up with conclusions. This is what life's about. And then we live based on these ideas of what life's about. But what if they're wrong? Well, the assumptions are wrong. So the conclusions should be wrong. So then next thing you know, you're 80 years old, getting ready to die, and you lived a life in the wrong direction, going for things that were totally unimportant, and you wasted your life. And okay, that's the first half of the book. The second half of the book really focuses on at least what I believe is really true, and that is that the individual, you and me, we're really not that important in the long term. I mean, a lot of people don't like to hear that, but Joy, you and me are both going to be dead in 80 years. We'll probably both be dead. And 100 years, maybe 120 years from now, no one will remember us. And everything that we accomplished will probably be forgotten. This book I wrote, which I think is great, well, you know what? It'll be out of print, and maybe all the copies that existed might all be gone by then, and that's just how it is. We aren't that important, but we live as if we are extremely important. It's not about us. And what it really is about the human race itself. We are all just a part of the entire of humanity itself. For example, if I was running a marathon and I really wanted to get to the end of the race, but I got blisters on my feet, but I kept running, and the blisters they ripped off. And so the skin that was part of my body got ripped off of my feet, but I still ran the race because I wanted to win, or not win, but at least finish the race. And from the skin's point of view, this was an awful, awful thing. It's like, look, because we ran this marathon, a lot of us got massacred. We got murdered. It was terrible. It was awful. But it wasn't about the skin cells. It was about the human who was running the marathon. And they tried to accomplish their goal. Maybe they did. Well, in the same way, you can look at us humans. We're like those individual skin cells. Not really important. We come, we go. What matters is the human, or what matters is humanity. That's kind of what the second half of the book is about.
Wow. I would actually love to check out the book, by the way. And I think I would highly recommend to anyone, honestly. So, yes, before I ask this one question, right?
Mm-hmm.
you've had mystical experiences and you practice dream analysis also. So how have those experiences influenced
Oh,
your thinking? Hmm,
oh, a lot,
hmm,
a lot.
hmm,
Um, so I listen to my dreams. Um, as I tell people, I do what I'm told, and that's what tells me. I, I, I believe there's so much. It's hard to describe it in so little time, but our unconscious minds, that's really what makes most of our decisions. We like to think that when we do marketing, people are going to, or you're trying to sell something, you can make an argument and they'll buy it because of what you said. Oh, it's the least expensive. I worked with these companies. That's not what sells. That's how what sells is the person you're talking to might like you or they might
hmm,
trust you. That's what sells. And they will use your arguments as a justification to their boss. It's like, yeah, they have
hmm,
all these customers and it's less expensive. And then the boss might approve it. But people generally make their decisions emotionally or it comes from their unconscious mind. The and I think that's true just in life, not just buying, but in life we make our decisions what we're going to do by our unconsciously. Oh, it's more complicated than that. I think I'm doing myself everyone a disservice because I don't think I'm leading you right, but I'll try. But most of us, we don't have a clear connection to our unconscious mind. Instead, we're too
hmm,
busy with our cell phones and with the mass media and all this other stuff, and we're not listening. And so we end up
hmm,
making decisions for let's say more conscious reasons, but not unconscious, and we end up ignoring what's really supposed to be driving us, which is our unconscious minds. And
hmm,
and so one way to really get back to the root of who we are is through listening to your dreams, and and that means yeah, I write them down in the mornings and when I have them, and I try to interpret them as best I can, and I often get a lot of really good meaning out of that and make my decisions based on that.
hmm. Wow. All right. So yes, thank you, John. And I was thinking, right, how about people who dream I can't even remember what they dreamt about? But I guess
Oh,
that
it's no, it's easy to do actually. I'm
Hmm,
sorry, I keep hitting my mic. So it's easy to do. You just have to ask yourself before you go to sleep. I want to
hmm,
remember. Can you please let me remember my dream? And when you wake up
hmm.
in the morning, first thing you need to do is write it down. Or I used
Okay.
to record them. You can record on your phone. There's these little apps, and you can just record it and just speak into it. I
Hmm,
was, yeah, like last night I was at some healing resort that was somehow situated in a place where there were 7 different states and they all had borders next to each other in one little spot, and that's where the resort was. And I was there. Now, what does it mean?
hmm,
That one I didn't even try to interpret. I have no idea what that one was about. But you could ask yourself, please, will you give me that? Will you do this for me? And usually, the unconscious mind will answer. And the more you listen to it, and the more it will be available to you. Most people have been ignoring it all this time, so it's like it's gonna not treat you very well, and it will ignore you back. But if you start saying, please come into my life, talk to me, tell me what I need to know, it will start to talk to you, and it will build trust with you. The more you write down your dreams and try to listen to it and act upon it, then it will feed you more. That all works. Can I tell you where my book is? Because I I
hmm.
don't
Okay.
I'm an American. I'm from the United States, and I don't know how
Yeah.
exchange rates are with your clientele, but my guess
Hmm,
is that my book would be super expensive for you all to buy. And I
hmm.
have it for free if you want it for free. I don't
Wow.
need your money. And if you go to my website, it's called skepticapress.com. It's Skeptika press,
Hmm,
skepticapress.com. You can download the book for free. It's a
hmm.
PDF. Uh, yeah, and yeah, I don't need money, so I just want people to read the book.
Right.
No,
Skepticalpress.com. I'm
it's
gonna
Skeptica Press, not Skeptico, Skeptica.
okay, all right. Okay. So I was actually checking it out when you were saying it, and I will put the link in the show notes, right? So
Oh,
it's
thank
easily
you.
it's easily accessible for listeners. So yes, thank you, John. And finally for today, right? I want you to talk to someone out there, specifically younger adults, because that is the sole purpose of my podcast, right? To
Hmm.
give advice to the younglings, basically. So many people in their 20s, they feel pressure to, follow a certain path, right? So what would you want them to know about that, and what would you say to them?
A few things.
Mm,
A few things. So, one, when you're scared of something, like you're thinking, I might want to try this, but you're scared, or maybe you're scared. Let's say a lawyer has sent you a letter and they want to sue you or something like that, and you're scared to open a letter or something like that. The best thing to do when you have fear is to run at it. In other
mm,
words, open a letter. If they say you got to do these things, do those things. If you're scared of trying new opportunities, go and do it. Because you'll find that that thing you were scared of, it wasn't even one third as much as you thought it was. That
mm,
is number one. Just be, it's not be fearless. It's just realize that when you run at what you're scared of, you'll find the other side of it. It was like, it was an empty, it was a, it was a, there was nothing there. And when you get through it, it's like, oh, you feel so much better. So that would be one. Um, Another one would be, no, that's all I could think of. I think that's the only. Oh, the other one was just be to try what I said. List all those things that you think or that you hear when you have this negative self-talk. Write all that stuff down and challenge them all. You can overcome those pretty fast. I overcame them in one day. And it was really plaguing
mm,
me. I really believed I was crap. I was just the worst loser in the world and would never be successful. And I managed to be successful. And that was my first step. It was that. One other thing I would suggest. So that was two things. The other one is if you can watch Tony Robbins, anything on YouTube by Tony Robbins, watch it. And if you could do it every day, just spend 5 minutes watching Tony Robbins, that will transform your life. And that will make you into a giant killer for sure.
mm. Wow, Tony Robbins. All right. So
Absolutely.
yes, thank you, John. I think this has been deeply insightful. Honestly, personally, I've learned a lot, right? And I believe my listeners will do the same as well. So yes, finally, before you go, where can listeners get to, learn more about you and also connect with you?
That would be Skeptic Press. So there's a forum if you want to write to me. I'll write back. I'll talk to anyone. Um, I'm all yeah. That's probably the best place. Skeptic Press. That way, I will actually be able to respond.
Mm, okay, Skeptical Press. All right. So yes, like I said, I would update it in the show notes. And to my listeners, I want to say thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this. And also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, John, and do have a wonderful day ahead of you.
Thank you, Joy.
You're welcome. Take care.